So, hey everyone, welcome to the ninth episode of Nameless Comics Podcast. And since here we have Savio Mascarenhas over here with us today. And guys, he's the group art project director at Amar Chitra Katha. He has worked for over 30 years at Tinkle, working on some amazing and popular characters like Shikari Shambu and Super Suppandi. He's also a TEDx talker. So, very glad to have you with us here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
I mean, all of us
So,
have grown up reading Tinkle, and it's like a pleasure to meet you. Like, you have worked in close association with Uncle Pi.
Yeah,
You have done so much of great work. So we are really, really glad and happy to have you here.
thanks a lot.
Absolutely. And I don't know if Savioji remembers me or not. We met at Kolkata Comic Con, and
Hmm.
he had gifted me this Guppy
Oh, yeah.
Vaga poster. I think it's hazy right now. I will
Yeah.
provide the clear picture later to Sandan so that he can put it there. It is also, signed by Savioji. And yeah, we had a small interview session, and it's uploaded on my channel as well. I hope you had fun at Kolkata.
Oh, yeah, of course I did. And first time to Kolkata, so that's why that my little tribute to those iconic characters. And again, I'm a huge fan of Satyajit Ray's works. So I this idea in fact came to me just I think 4 or 5 days before we were leaving for the Comic Con to Calcutta, and I wanted something like to connect with the people there, and I said like why not? And these two guys perfectly fit the character. So one is
Yeah,
short and the other one is tall,
on the
and
end,
yeah.
as Guppy
So
Vaga was
yes,
genius.
yeah. So yes, that was my little tribute.
we also actually met at the Bangalore Comic Con start of
Yes, we
January.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, I got this from you. It's
Hmm.
signed over here. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was actually
Yeah,
fun. Actually, like
yeah.
up until a few years back, I had like a whole lot of Tinkle issues. Like from 2013 till mid 2015, I had collected every issue actually, and
Hmm.
Supandi being my favorite, I had all the Super D volumes as well because that was
Oh,
my
wow.
favorite. Yeah, it was my. I always liked Supandi before that, but when I knew he was in a
Huh.
super form, I loved reading those comic strips.
So, uh, Super Supandi came out of the need of more Supandi stories. So, a lot of children used to write to us asking, like, can we have more Supandi stories in a Tinkle? And our editor at that time was Mr. Luis Fernandez. He's one of the earliest from the team of Uncle Pai. So, it was Luis Fernandez, Subba Rao, and Mr. Pai, who together made Tinkle. And Lewis, this was his second stint with Tinkle. He became the editor again in 2009-10. And at that time, we decided, okay, let's make a separate comic only with Supandi stories. So it was called Supandi 48 because it was 48 pages of only Supandi stories. And unlike the one-page Supandis that we usually have in Tinkle, the Suppandi 48 had longer stories, and that gave me this idea. Let me just have this character called Super Suppandi, because if Suppandi goofed up on a normal level, what would he do on a super level? So it was super goofs up that he did, and uh, it was super fun actually drawing Suppandi in that avatar of his. And I also had a tagline for him, which is called "Cogito ergo sum," which means I think, therefore I am, because it's all his imagination. He doesn't exist in reality. Super Supandi exists only in Supandi's mind. So all the adventures of Super Supandi were only his imagination, his dreams rather.
Like, it's like Kelvin and Hobbes. Everything is happening in
Co-
imagination.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, so that was Super Supandi, and so it had its run. We did I think around 6 to 7 Supandi 48 and quite a few Super Supandi stories in them. We in fact experimented with one manga style comic at that time, also
Yeah,
in Supandi 48. So it was
yeah.
quite an experimental comic, I must say. But we had to stop it later on. But Super Super is coming back. I'm doing one story which will be out in November. That's the anniversary issue of Tinkle. And so
Wow.
Super Super will be back in that issue.
That's
Yes.
We have to check it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
I think back at that time, saying about Suppandi 48, I think I remember there was one of the editorial type letters where Suppandi was having a conversation with his team members,
Yeah.
where he
Yes.
was actually saying, people want to know more about my life, but they know think I'm only a house help, but I have a life outside that I have hobbies. And the inside joke
Yes.
was he has other hobbies. Is there something else? So I don't know if it was right after that later that Super Supandi came or
Hmm.
not, but I remember that and that manga
Hmm.
style Supandi story
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
There was even that Lifebuoy themed Supandi and Shikari Shambu team up
Shambhu.
actually.
That was,
Yeah,
yes, that was for a client. That was for a client Life Boy. And they somehow picked Shambhu and Supandi and said, like, let's make them fighting germs who are monsters. So it was for Life Boy that we again gave Shambhu a very heroic and muscular physique and all of that. But it was only for that one-off adventure with Life Boy.
yeah, but there was cool character design to see both of them full buffed up
Yeah.
like a hero at costume.
In fact, a lot of people do ask me about Shambhu and his existence, his life, and what is he all about. The usual question, of course, is when can we see his eyes? And
Yeah.
of course, that's a mystery. I would always say that that's the genius of Mr. Halbe, Mr. Vasant Halbe, who was the artist behind creating this iconic character. So it was Luis Fernandez, the writer at that time, and Halbe. They together thought like, let's have this character. Because Luis's idea is they will have a bungling forest ranger. In fact, they were. It was like, let's have a hunter, like And if you look at the very old stories of Shambhu, he would be actually carrying a gun. And
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, he never would have killed the animal, but he would have frightened the animal. He would have shot at a jackfruit, and the jackfruit would have fallen on the tiger, and all of those things used to happen. But when they thought about this, they said, like, okay, let's have a hunter in the usual, khaki clothes and all of that. But I think it was Halve who decided that let's not show his eyes, and he's petrified of animals and stuff. So that's how the story started forming. But I guess that's what Mr. Halbi has done, creating a character so unique. And this is something I tell a lot of comic book artists today that, if you want to create a character that's going to be exclusive and going to be really something special, then you have to find something which is a very unique trait in that character, a personality trait or a costume trait or something. And that would make your character stand apart from the others. And that's what Shambhu has done. You would find a lot of forest rangers around, but you will never find one with his eyes covered, and that would be only Shambhu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. I think a lot of the Tinkle characters had some unique trait which made them
Yes.
stand apart. So, like for me, Tantri the Mantri was like a huge
Hmm.
draw. Kalia the Crow again
Yeah.
was one of my all-time favorites. How he
Ah.
would outfox the fox, and I would always look forward to that story. So I remember when I
Hmm.
was to read as a kid, I would always
Hmm.
keep the Kalia the Crow story at the last. Like I would read
Hmm.
all entire Tinkle, then I would keep Kalia the Crow in the end, and I would want to kind of relish what would happen because they used to be my
Hmm.
favorite during that time. And of course, Supandi was there, but Supandi was only a
Yeah.
one pager. So that used to
Exactly.
always be like I should not like it. That is such a short story. As a kid, I
Hmm.
wanted more
Hmm.
Supandi, and I think that is still true right now.
Very true. So I guess the way Supandi stories are written, so I must tell you a little bit about it in the sense that it's quite tough for a writer to write a Supandi story which is longer. The joke in a Supandi story is sometimes, most of the time, it's of course the language. Sometimes it's the actions, but it has to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the Supandi joke is done. But
Yeah,
the challenge comes in when you write an extended story, like you have a 3, 4, 5, 6 pager. That's when how do you carry that humor
yeah,
through those. And that's something which we really felt when we were doing the Super 48s because they were longer stories. We explored a lot of
okay,
different ways of telling a longer Super story. And so, yeah, even today, children do ask for can we have a longer Super story or can we have more Super stories? But I think that format is set,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that has
I
clicked
think
over the years.
yeah. That's understandable because a lot of times the humor comes because of his action, which gets explained in the
Yes,
last panel, which is the
correct.
expression of the joke. Otherwise, you are not understanding why is he acting in a
Yeah.
particular way. Like I still remember one story, which is a very simple one. Supandi and his master, they go to one shop. They are drinking cold drink, and every time Supandi takes a sip, he smiles broadly, and you see the his master or like the owner of who he reports to, the manager, or how you want to call it in the correct words. He's flummoxed. He doesn't know why is he taking a sip and
Mm,
smiling. And the
mm,
last, then he at last asks him, "Why are you taking a sip and smiling?" So he reveals that, at the bottom of the label, it's written "sip and smile." So that was
super.
like the joke. So these are the like small, small
Yeah.
things which get
Yeah.
revealed right at the end where there's a
Mm.
punchline for it. So,
And what I loved the most was growing up, of course, I was a huge fan of Supandi and Mr. Wayarkar. Now, again, that's the another genius,
yeah, Ram
Ram
Bayarkar,
Wayarkar.
yes.
So, Mr.
Yes.
Wayarkar, again, when we talk of uniqueness of a character, the way he has visualized Supandi with a flat head and a long nose and a long chin, again, that's the uniqueness that he has brought with this character. I used to always look at the last panel. It had
Yeah,
some hilarious image of the master and Supandi, mostly the master who would be shocked out of his senses.
yeah.
And that was like, just, I mean, I fell in love with comics at that time, I guess. Uh, so yeah, my journey actually starts in the 80s with Tinkle. And of course, I grew up actually reading Amar Chitrakatha, Tinkle. They were a part of my literary diet as such. And we exchanged a lot of comics. And I don't know
Yeah.
whether kids today still do exchange comics, but there was a thing at that time, we used to go out on holidays on Saturday, Sundays, or during vacations and exchange comics with our friends.
It used to happen in school. Like I remember exchanging my Tinkle, my Chacha
Hmm.
Chaudhary with another, friend of mine because you would get to
Yeah,
read more that way. Buying
correct.
comics, of course, was not possible to do it as
Huh.
frequently as we would have wanted. So that used to be there, of course. And the Chacha Chaudhary wala comic where there's a Raka involved, then that used to be like worth two comics.
Mhm.
Good old days.
Yeah. So, like I have been reading Tinkle since the 80s, and
Hmm.
a lot of these stories are there. Like I thought I'll show it to you. This is like written by you. I have a lot of these comics. I think
Oh,
from
huh.
I have double-digit comics like 60 and 80s and number
Wow.
90 and 91. And I have, I
Hmm.
think, almost over 100 Tinkles because my
Hmm.
father used to get it to me like clockwork. Every fortnight, he
Huh.
would get me the Tinkle when I was in school. So for almost 2, 3 years,
Hmm.
I have that entire stock. Of course, they are not as great as some of them are in this state, as you can see, kind
Oh, wow.
of. But one
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this has got a timetable of 1994, I think, 95. So this is what Tinkle used to give.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a
So
parlay sponsor.
yeah, Parle one.
Hmm.
And a lot of Tinkle. So I
Hmm.
want to ask you, like, how was it working on Tinkle? How was it working on Amar Chitrakatha? What kind of processes did you follow? Did it like get finished in a fortnight? Because every fortnight there was a new comic
Hmm.
which used to come.
Yeah.
How did that work? What was the experience like?
So when I started, this was around 92, 93. I used to freelance with Tinkan. And I started on as a staff artist in 94. That's when earlier I used to work freelance as a comic book artist and a full-time job as a
Okay.
copywriter. So
Okay.
my full-time job was copywriting in ad agencies, and by when I while I was freelancing, I used to visit Uncle Pai very often, go in, give the artworks, spend time with him, speak to him for some time, and then go for my office. That went on for a few years, and then I remember it was 31st of December, and Uncle Pai asked me, "So what are you doing nowadays, and are you happy with what you're doing?" And that's when I told him that I'm working as a copywriter and freelancing as a comic book artist with you. And he said, "Are you happy being a writer or would you rather draw?" And that's when I said, like, I think I would be happier being a comic book artist. And that's when he gave me a New Year's gift. He said, "It's New Year coming around. I'll give you your New Year's gift. You join us as a comic book artist." So my
Okay.
job doesn't come with a biodata that I've sent him. My job is my gift, and I joined, and that was it. My journey started learning comics, rather uh, on the job, for me to understand because I didn't come with the qualification of from any college as such. So I learned on the job about comics. I used to refer to a lot of asterisks, and I used to refer to, of
Yeah.
course, Tinkle. And then I occasionally would meet Mr. Wayarkar, Mr. Halbe when they used to come to the office because they were all freelancers, and I
Right.
had become a staff artist then. So the process was very simple. We used to draw on a paper, which is a quarter imperial, as we would call it. A quarter imperial, uh, Indian TK or Japan TK. That was a paper that we used to draw on. Uh, and I we used to use, so I used to use, the uh, just an ordinary pen and the sketch pen sort of a thing. And then later on, I started using the crookwill nib, and then I used to use a brush. So I used to constantly speak to these guys and understand the process of inking and all of that. So Mr. Halbe helped me a lot. Mr. Wayarkar helped me a lot. So there's a particular croakwill nib. It's like a nib with like it's like a pen nib and with a holder and all.
Okay.
I'll just show you one. Have one here. So this is how it is. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
So this is a croakwill nib.
Looks like an
Yeah.
ink pen.
Yeah, so you have to dip this in black ink, and
Yeah.
we used to ink our artworks with that. Then later on, it was a brush, and so the way the magazines were brought out, it we had to catch the 15th of the month for print. So we have to work
Yeah.
it backwards. Suppose if we have to give the files to the printers on the 15th of the month, the writers would start writing the stories way back, like at least 2 months in advance. Because at that time
Okay.
everything was hand drawn. The scripts
Yeah.
had to go out by post to all the artists who were freelancers and the
Okay.
in-house, of course. So by the time we used to send the script to say Wayarkar or Halbe or to there were quite a few freelance artists at the Gautam Sen, or it would be so many other artists who used to work freelance. Uh, so the scripts used to be sent to them by post, and
Yeah.
then their artworks used to come to us by post at that time, later on courier. Uh, but there was an in-house team who used to do the hand letters. Now, this was the 90s till
Yeah.
2002 or 2003. The process was drawing on paper, the lettering also on paper, and finally, that huge sheet, quarter imperial sheet, was then photocopied to a smaller size. That's the size of the magazine,
Okay.
the Tinkle magazine
Right.
size. And then we had an in-house colorist, Mr. Gore. And Mr. Gore used to do the colors. Mr. Umesh Sarode, he used to do the letters and letters again with using a rotring pen and of course using stencils and putting those lines in and writing the filling in the speech bubbles on the artwork. So that was a lengthy process. That took us at
Yeah.
least, say, roughly around 1.5 months to put out a 32-page comic. At that time, Tinkle was 32 pages, and
Yes.
it used to come out fortnightly. So the process was a bit lengthy, and in the sense we had a limited color palette. There was only like 28 colors that
Okay.
the colorist had to use, and because the printer had the same limited color palette. So once this uh, photocopy of the original artwork was colored, that photocopy, the colored photocopy, became the final art, which went to the printer. Then the printer used to take those positives and negatives and everything out of it and create this color separation. So,
Okay.
so there are these positives. So one positive is be only text and the black and white artwork. So that's one. The second one will be your CMY, right? So
Yeah.
you have the black
CMYK.
already. Yeah. So you have the black
Cyan.
already. That's,
Yeah.
yeah. So and then after that you have your the separation. So there's the processors used to then do the color separations. So all of that is a very dated. I don't know how anybody would even understand this today. But this was a printing process that we followed.
And I have one query, Savioji. Suppose these days,
Yeah,
if there is some modifications or rectifications to be done, we can just call up the artist or WhatsApp
yeah,
him that
yeah.
what was the process back then if the writer or the publisher was not
Uh,
satisfied with the artwork or they wanted
yeah,
some change, then it is going to go
yeah.
through the courier all over again.
No, no. So the in-house team had to do it. So I don't think that, and I don't think we never faced any major artwork issues with any of the artists. If there were any corrections to be done, then the in-house artists had to do those little
Okay.
corrections, like, maybe a little expression change but thankfully we never had major complications. If it was, then the artwork would have gone back to them. But when I worked on so many artworks, even doing some minor corrections in some other artists' work at that time when I was a junior. So, some just completion of inks or just,
Yeah.
filling out some little portions here and there. And that was it. But majorly, there were no art corrections as such. And of course, Mr. Wayarkar, Mr. Halbe used to come to the office. So if there was something, then they would tackle it. But we never really faced any issues, thankfully, at that time. So yeah,
That explains a lot. That in-house setup,
yeah.
yeah, that eradicates a lot of the complications that we have nowadays, but we also have the technology at our disposal.
Hmm.
Anyway, Savioji, you have had an amazingly glorious career with ACK and Tinkle and a bunch of other publishers. But have you worked on any independent comics as such as of date?
Well, I've not worked on independent comics as such. I do have a line of my own characters, which I have not really published them as such. But you would find some traces of them on my Instagram page. I have quite a few. So they're not full-fledged comic characters in now, as of now, but I work on these ideas off and on. So there are around two or three of them. You might find them on my Instagram page, and there's one which I'm working on at present. This is about a character from Goa, and he's how would I explain this? So it's a dog who is very street smart and of course gets into fights. And the way this character has been drawn is that he has what do you call that? A vessel on his head, which is
Okay.
a saucepan, a saucepan
Yeah.
which is stuck on his head. And so just to give him that personality, like this guy's always been in some fights, and there's a saucepan, and I don't know why I did that saucepan on the dog's head, but his name is Derepent Dubao. So Derepent in Konkani, in Goa, in Konkani means sudden, and Dubao
Okay.
means doubt. And I had an uncle of mine growing up. He had a dog, and the dog's name was Derepen Dubao. So I just loved that name so much, where the dog was addressed. And whenever you used to call out to the dog used to look very surprised, and he had this very doubtful look on his face. So this series, which I am putting down, is called The Dubious Adventures of Derepen Dubao. Some of those characters are there on my LinkedIn page. So they're all going to be, sorry, not on my LinkedIn, Instagram page. And
Instagram.
yeah, and this is again adventures based in Goa. It's very rustic, and it would deal with issues on a particular island in Goa. So Goa has got three or four islands. One of them is Diwar, which is very close to where I stay in Goa. So my stories are based on that island, and it's just the day-to-day activities. So there's a hen, a rooster, and a hen. A hen basically, she is her name is Mila Green, and then there is a list of other characters. There is Pedro Poder, and there are three or four other characters that I have. But these characters are a part of this entire universe, and so yeah, I'm in the process of writing these stories. So
Oh,
Wonderful.
hopefully,
awesome.
What are
I'll bring
your
it out
plans
sometime.
with these characters? Like, are you going to bring out your own comics or sell the IPs later to someone who's interested, some publisher? What do you plan in the
Uh,
long run with in this universe that
well,
you're
I've
creating?
not really thought about in the longer run. Eventually, of course, definitely, I want to bring it out. I want to bring it out in a shorter form, maybe digital to begin with. Then eventually, let me see how it goes. Now, of course, it's much easier, to put out content on your own and get the feel of what readers would say about it, and then, of course, take a call. Then there's another character which I had created. This is again when we were uh, having these October Inktober's in it happens every year
Yeah.
on Instagram. So you have
Instagram.
to you have to do these sketches every day. So that's the time when I had created another character. It's this tiny guy who's got a pointy nose and uh, and he's got a little dragon friend. So
Okay.
I have not named this character yet. Again, I had put a lot of these sketches of this character. With Inktober, you have to go on for the full month. But of course, they give you a prompt every day, and then you have to follow that prompt and do the drawings every day. So with this character, I went on this entire series of. So I guess even this is there on Instagram. But as of now, I don't have a name to this character. The universe is somewhere defined in my mind. Again, the universe of this guy is very, I would say it's a lot of fantasy. And so there are a mix of characters who would be coming into the stories. And it's more of fantasy and adventure. And of course, humor as such. So I guess I'm very comfortable drawing humor and
Yeah.
characters which are very outlandish, which I realized when I was drawing Janwa and Willy Woo. So that, if you guys remember, was a series again late 90s. It was along with this writer Vanita Ved, and Janu and Wulibu was again full magical and fantasy, and around the same time when Harry Potter had come in. So Janu was this good witch, and Wulibu was a shy dragon. So that entire series, again, I loved it a lot because when you're drawing fantasy you don't have to uh, like you can create
Limit
your
your
own universes. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
There's no
it's like I
limit.
really love that bit. Yeah, there's no limit to your imagination that time. So the entire the jungles, if it's underwater or forest or whatever I used to draw, and then I used to just go all crazy about it. So yeah, I think I'm more comfortable drawing these particular style of art. I really like drawing on paper a lot more than uh, digital art. Of course, we do digital art in office, but that's the need of the hour. Uh, we
Yeah.
work faster. Yeah, that's the thing. Today, the processes have changed a lot more. Everything is done on Photoshop and, of course, colored, lettered, and all of that. Uh, but I guess at the core of every comic book artist, if you speak to them, they would always say that, nothing like drawing on paper. So yeah,
I absolutely I agree with you. In fact, like for a
yeah.
lot of hardcore fans, we
Hmm.
we love seeing real art, like where it's
Yeah.
not AI or it's
Mm.
not like used with a lot of embellishments. We prefer the realness of it because I think
Yeah.
somewhere that's where we connect.
Yeah.
So
It's just an amazing moment for artists where they are sitting through the process and you're just being in that moment with that character, with the
Yeah.
thoughts, and
Yeah.
it's just a nice moment for every artist when they're in that zone.
So I guess, for me, it is, when I sit to actually draw, a lot of ideas come while I'm drawing. For example, when I'm drawing a Shambhu story, there will be so much of it which may not be in the script. So you become the character, you become that universe, you become a part of that entire storytelling. So for me, when I'm drawing a Shambhu story, you will always find that there is a little bird or there's a little squirrel somewhere in the background. They may not be a part of the storytelling as such. So that's when you immerse yourself so much into that universe where, as a storyteller, you also become a storyteller as an artist. You become a storyteller.
yes,
Of course, you're following a script which tells you the sequence of the stories, the panels, and all of that. But as an artist, I always feel like I have to add something more to it. And that's when I bring in my little elements. You would find a little bird or a little monkey or a squirrel or something or a little worm somewhere in the background doing their own thing. Uh, and that will be like a story within the story. And that is why I have really grown to, in fact, being a part of these universes as such. The other one character that I have really loved and is still very close to my heart is Mops and Purr. If you guys would remember,
Yeah.
Mops and Purr, again, a dog and cat detective from
Yeah.
Mumbai, and they have a little detective agency. And again, they fought for the rights of the animals. So it was fighting against crime, which were committed against animals. And so most of these, the issues that we really felt very close to our heart. Rina, who is the creator of Mooks and Purr, she wrote the stories and I illustrated them. We really believed in what we were writing, what we were creating. The stories were very close to us because every story we were dealing with a particular problem that animals were facing, be it cats, dogs, or monitor lizards, or turtles, everything. So that was like, how passionate we become, as comic book artists when you're creating content. We do keep these things in mind, which with every story that we put out in Tinkle, uh, what type of message am I sending out to my reader? It has to be inspiring, it has to be fun, it has to be something which a child will remember, uh, something that the child will learn. So all of that things are kept in mind when we work on a script for Tinkle. So even today, when I work on a Shambhu story, or even if it's any other story that we work on, a lot of thought goes into the story writing, of course, the way the scripts are written. The writers would keep in mind that the language has to be clear, clean, and perfect. That was what Mr. Pai has taught us. That we never use any slangs, and also he was very particular that we use the British English. So no slangs, no British, no American slangs, and of course the grammar had to be British English grammar, and that there is a moral to the story.
True.
But we put out stories which were very, very clean and humorous. So, Mr. Pai was very particular. If you want to tell a child a story, see to it that the child enjoys it, loves it, and also doesn't feel that he or she is being taught something. Like, we are not saying that the moral of the story is this.
Yeah. There is
And
no preaching there.
there is no preaching, exactly. And today,
It is very
when correct. And today, what happens is the storytelling has changed. If you may have noticed, today's children like complex storytelling. There is
Mm.
no black and white now. There are gray characters. There are shades of gray in every character that they would want to really explore. So storytelling today is complex in the sense like the way we used to write stories earlier for Tinkle, they were very, very straightforward at times. But if you look at the stories today, we do address a lot of issues in the stories that we put in Tinkle today. We do talk about issues which children face in the classroom. For example, some of the stories that we have carried had stories about children who are facing depression or bullying or separation, like, a child who has left a particular school and has moved to another city. So the problems which children face, these are the type of stories which we do, these are the type of issues that we do address in the comics today. So, and of course, in a humorous way.
Yeah.
Again, the storytelling has to be nice and sweet. And of course, at the end of the story, they would also figure out that, yeah, these are problems which are there. And also being very inclusive. And I've done quite a few stories where there is a particular character in the story who's on a wheelchair. Uh, so including characters in your story without them being the main protagonist. We're not talking about a person who's on a wheelchair, but we're just making that person inclusive. Like, so the inclusiveness is something that we really feel, um, why not? Like, we should have everyone in a story. So I remember doing this adventure story with a girl on a wheelchair, and she's just like any other child. So she is on a wheelchair, but and that's not stopping her from enjoying a good adventure. So these are the ways that stories are told today in Tinkle. And of course, writers put in a lot of effort. The editorial team puts in a lot of effort into researching about everything that we put in. And that again comes from what Uncle Pai has taught us, that, whatever you put into Tinkle has to be authentic, has to be checked and cross-checked. At that time, of course, we had the books that we were referring to. So we had to actually
Yeah.
show Uncle Pai that this is the book, this is the
Hmm.
visual that I'm referring to. And only when he was convinced, he would say that, okay, fine, it's good enough to go into Tinkle. Even today, the editors follow the same format, that we will cross-check everything that we would even get on the internet. All these facts are checked, and only then we would put all this information into the magazine. So yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
it may sound like a child's play, but of course, what we have to do behind the scenes is serious business.
Absolutely agree. Like I remember when I was a kid and I was reading it, there were
Hmm.
stories which were about general knowledge, which you would not get in
Yeah,
a lot of other places. So
correct.
your intelligence is also being, your knowledge is increasing. You come to know about so many things, why something like this
Hmm.
happens. There was this entire
Yeah.
series of Anu Club, which was very popular,
Yes.
but it was
Yes.
done in such a way that, it never
Yeah.
felt like it's boring. It never felt like
Correct.
you are like studying. It was always learning something new. I remember
Hmm.
Tinkle Tells You Why used to be there. I used to love
Oh
reading all
yeah.
those reasons because the
Huh.
headline was always very engaging. It
Yeah.
it kind of grabbed you like, okay, I want to know what they're talking about. It was
Hmm.
never
Hmm.
preachy. Then mythology, of course, was something which we all loved. Amar Chitra Katha was full of authentic
Yes.
mythology. And I
Yeah.
remember Tinkle used to have like a lot of foreign mythology as well, like a fairy tale or
Yeah.
a folk tale from Russia or from China,
Correct.
especially I think the
Yeah.
earlier ones. So
Yeah.
it was never go ever like a preachy thing. It was always getting to understand the world in a very
Hmm.
beautiful, colorful, vibrant, fun, entertaining way. So
The refined infotainment, basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I have
In fact,
passed
that.
my school history just through that because we in our school library we had all these big volumes of Amar Chitra Katha. The blue ones would be
Hmm.
about revolutionaries. We had about the Indian Revolutionary Freedom Fighters. That is literally how I
Yeah.
passed my book. I didn't touch my school textbook. I would go to the library. I would take these in bulk, read these,
Huh.
and that's how I cleared my exams because that was more engaging to read from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
true.
very
We
true
had
what you
our
said
periods.
about Amachitra Katha. That, children learn a lot better when you show them visuals. So that's one of my TEDx talks where I talk about visuals in learning. So I talk about visual art, which enhances the learning processes in a child. When you tell a story, and this is something that we have tried out with schools around Mumbai and different cities, where we give them a story. We have given them the comic book of Ashoka, and and they also have Ashoka in the syllabus. So when they read the story of Ashoka in their textbooks, that is only the text that they have read. But when they read the comic book alongside, uh, they learn much better, they understand, they can recollect the entire story and answer the questions much better because they're visually very, very active. They have figured the story out, and they would remember because of course they've seen the visuals. And that is what I talk about, like, in my TEDx is about uh, how these visuals play a very important role in telling a story. And comics, I think, has been that very, very important medium of communication. And it's been over the ages. I guess, if you look back to the prehistoric times when even the caveman used to do the sketches
Yeah,
on the cave, he or she was trying to tell a story, right? And that's when the storytelling journey begins. Over the centuries, like every civilization that you look at have told their stories through visuals. Look at the Mayans, look at the Egyptians, look at the Incas, the Aztecs, any of these ancient civilizations. Numerous of those stories have been told only through visuals. And I guess that's a tendency of a human being, to remember and learn much better through visuals. And till today, like we follow that thing about telling a story through this visual imagery through this entire sequential art, so that we would call it.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's learning much better, faster, quicker, understanding concepts. I remember this was way back around 10, 15 years ago when Tata Mutual Funds had approached us and said, we want to do a comic book on mutual funds. At that time, when mutual funds was all new, and we said, they said, let's have Supandi doing this thing. Let Supandi talk about mutual funds. If Supandi can understand mutual funds, then anybody can.
Yeah.
So we had done this
Hmm.
entire series, comics on mutual funds with Supandi in it. So just imagine that impact, you know. Any
Yeah.
Tinkle fan would say, "Oh wow, if Supandi has understood mutual funds, so wow, that's like." So
Anybody can.
that is exactly that's the power of comics. That's the power of this visual
Yeah.
medium. And so whenever I speak at any forum, when I go to schools or colleges for that matter, where I talk to them about visual communication and the importance of comics, because we are born like that. You know, human beings are visually very, very active. We think visually a lot more, and ideas come to us much more. But being visually active is very important. And that is something I talk to schools, to children in schools, where I talk to them about being visually active. Today, unfortunately, I do see a lot of children on devices and spending a lot more time on the device rather than actually looking at the world around you. And
Yeah.
it saddens me at times, but my efforts are always going to be there to uh, make children and parents, mainly it's more with the parents, to build up this very healthy habit of reading, to build up this very healthy habit of going out and observing nature and learning from nature, learning from the things around us. I guess we have all grown up in that world where the distractions were a lot lesser than today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess, you know, but we have to live with it. But I also believe that, you know, you always can find time from all these devices. You can find time to actually go out and enjoy nature. You can find time to actually pick up a book and read. So yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
Speaking like how you were saying about even parents also can pick up a book and read. So from
Yeah.
many years I've been trying to get my parents to read my Amritsar Katha collections, and it's the
Hmm.
same thing. Vast majority of the elders feel cartoons are comics and they're meant for children. So I was struggling with that for many years, and I
Huh.
have this Valmiki's Ramayana. So I
Hmm.
just mom reads it, like she reads the text. I prefer the
Yeah.
picturization because it's easier for me that way. So I just showed her the exact same text and
Hmm.
part of
Hmm.
the story she was
Yeah.
reading. She said, "Oh my God! Like the pictorial representation of Bharata when it comes to height wise between the siblings, the kind of dialogue it is the same to same."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and also coming back to what you were saying, how you always fact check what you want to put out in these books. So I was like, yes, that is what I've been saying from all these years. These books are accurate. You can read them.
So true. So true. You know what? You spoke about the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. In fact, the Mahabharata, which was done by Dilip Kadam sir, is, I think, an epic volume that we have created over the years. And it is all his work throughout those three volumes of Amar Chitragatha that we have. And I guess, you know, that one effort of Dilip Kadam sir is goes a long, long way, you know, to immerse yourself into this volumes of work. It goes into, I think, 1,000 plus pages of
Mm,
art. And he took almost 3 to 4 years to create that. Has been monumental. And like you said, you know, very true. When you look at these visuals, you understand the story much better. You would really like, looking at the actions and looking at that. Same with the Ramayana. We have a box set of the Ramayana, which again, storytelling, and of course by different artists who have done the artworks in the stories. One of them is, of course, Rijit Datta Chaudhary, and he's a excellent artist, and he's working on a new series now. It's called the Gita, and again that's
okay.
going to be more than 100 plus pages of art. So we would always want to tell the stories which we firmly believe in, and putting it out in the best possible way. Now, the first version of the Gita that we have done in the Amar Chitra Katha was a 32 pager. But
Yeah,
now Reena Puri, who is the editor, decided that let's go deep into the Gita because, of course, the Gita is a very complex book,
yeah,
story to tell because there are multiple characters, there are multiple meanings to find out what Krishna was actually talking about to
True.
Arjuna. And this entire thing we felt like, needs more pages. And of course, that's the reason why we are looking at creating a new version of the Gita, which is of course all going to be illustrated by Arijit Datta Chaudhary. He's in the process of doing it, and I think by the end of this year we should have the Gita out. So that's where Amachita Katha explores these universes. In fact, I think there's a lot for Amachita Katha to look at within our own our own history and our own mythology and our own folk tales. We also recently did some beautiful folk tales which were from the tribal regions of India. So they were called the tribal folk tales of India, and you would be amazed to find there's so much of these stories around. Each state would have their own stories,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. It's amazing because there are so many stories which no one would have ever heard of. And that's where we feel that responsibility of telling these stories so that they stay for perpetuity, and that's our sole purpose, to tell a story which would otherwise have been lost and and forgotten. Uh, Another title that I can remember now is The Tribal Freedom Fighters of India. Now that
Yeah.
again, a lot of people would not know about. Like there were small stories of these tribal freedom fighters who fought for independence of India at that time, but their names would not have been spoken of in books or in anywhere in history as such. But what we did with Amar Chitrakatha was bringing out a special volume on the tribal freedom fighters of India. So this is what we believe in, that there's always a story out there, and it's our responsibility to tell it in the best possible way.
Quick trivia and self promotion there. Have you all heard about Sundarbans?
Yes. The
Sundarbans,
forest.
yeah, yes,
So that is the largest delta in the world, and it's located in Bengal, known for
yeah.
the popular Royal Bengal tiger. So there are a lot of stories associated with Sundarbans, and me, along with a bunch of other creatives, we teamed up together to put out a graphic novel anthology that has been published very recently. It's called Graphicatha. So we have
Mm,
highlighted some tribal related stories, some stories associated with Sundarbans. There are different flavors, like there are five different stories in it, and each of them is done by different team of artists and writers.
mm,
So you might, if you want to, you can check it out. I will send SK the photos and associated links, and he can put in this video as well.
We look
definitely
forward to
look
it.
forward
Yeah.
to it.
Because Sundarbans
Yes,
is known for its vast flora and
yeah,
fauna. Like, I mean, you
yeah,
mentioned the tiger. I think there's also the river dolphin, which is very
Mangrove
unique to
forests.
yes,
Sundarbans. Yeah. I
yes.
think Amitav
The
Ghosh has
Ganges
written
dolphin.
about it.
I
Yes. So,
I'm a huge
yeah.
fan of
s-
Amitav Ghosh. I guess I've got his entire collection there. So I guess one of
yeah.
his novels does talk about
Hungry
the
Tide.
Sundarban. Yes,
The Hungry Tide. Yeah.
the Hungry
I
Tide.
love that book. So Savio, I wanted to ask, like, there are a lot of we got inspired by the work that you've done. What
Hmm.
inspires you? I mean, which kind of graphic novels or books are
Hmm.
your inspiration?
Well, to begin with, like I mentioned earlier, I grew up looking at the works of Mr. Vaidkar, Mr. Halbe. Tinkle was, of course, there for me to go through. And also, it was Mario Miranda and R.K. Lakshman. Of Mario Miranda's cartoons used to appear in the
Yes.
afternoon newspaper, and of course, R.K. Lakshman in the Times of India. So I grew up actually in that universe of Mario Miranda's cartoons, where uh, and all these characters appealed to me a lot more. So my style, of course, tends to go more towards Mario's work as such, and I like the humor that, and of course, R.K. Lakshman's works are excellent. I love the way he used the brush. and ink. And I guess the way he has mastered the drawing crows, I don't think any other cartoonist has ever come close to drawing the way like R.K. Lakshman ever did. So these were my earlier inspirations, of course, and later on, it was getting exposed to a lot more different comics. Asterix, of course, being one of my favorites, all-time favorites. Even today, I think no, nothing can beat Asterix. Then, of course, Tintin, and there's another favorite of mine. He's this cartoonist. Uh, he draws from Mad magazine, and
Yeah,
Sergio
yeah, yeah.
Aragonés. So
Yes.
Sergio again is my all-time favorite, all-time favorite. Because when I actually started drawing for Tinkle, I used to draw these little one-panel gags. They were called See and Smile.
See and
So
smile.
it was a
Yeah,
yeah, it was just a gag in one panel. And
correct.
I later on came across Sergio's works in the Mad on the margins of Mad Comics. So they're called the marginals. And Sergio is like that, the humor which goes only in visuals. There's no text. The humor, just the visuals would tell you the story. And it was all funny gags. So Sergio Aragonis is of course one of my favorites. And over the years, of course, there have been a lot of other artists who have inspired me. If I talk of Indian artists, then of course Arijit Datta Chaudhary, who I consider is one of the best comic book artists. He's a sort of a recluse. Nobody would ever know how he looks, or because he has never ever come on screen. He's from Kolkata,
Okay.
and he will kill me for saying this, talking about him so much, because he
No, no,
doesn't
no.
come in front of the camera. But he's an amazing, amazing artist. He's been a very dear friend of mine for so many, more than 30 years now.
Yeah, he's pretty versatile. We have seen various art
Yes,
styles and he has mastered,
yes.
I guess, all of them, be it cartoony, realistic,
Yeah,
semi-realistic,
yeah, yeah. You will
caricature.
find his work. Yes, you'll find his work in Tinkle a lot more in the 90s. He used to do a lot. Now he does, of course, a lot of Amachitra Katha work. And of
He has
course,
done a lot of
Rajesh Naglakunda.
Rajesh.
Rajesh Naglakunda is another favorite of mine. I think, nobody can beat Rajesh Naglakonda's art style when it comes to telling a story. Uh, in the sense, the way he breaks panels, the way he tells a story is so lucid. Like, it just flows. I would refer to his one particular graphic novel, which is Chanakya. uh, you should you should see the artwork in that. It is mind blowing. It is just mind blowing. His strength of visualizing a story is just amazing. Like, I asked Rajesh, how do you even come with these ideas? Like, how do you even tell your story? Because it's so visually strong. And the way he draws, I mean, there is so much of fluidity in his art. And Chanakya in particular, I think is one of my favorites. And Rajesh is such a down-to-earth, humble person. He would just say like, "aa jata hai, ho jata hai," and he just smiles it off. But I know it takes quite a thing to visualize like the way Rajesh does. So of course, yeah, he's one of my favorites. And again, of course, there's Abhijit Kini. If I talk of the way Abhijit's style, again, is something which is quite hilarious. So Abhijit and I also go way back. I've known Kini for almost, yeah, it's around 20, 25 years now. He also draws a lot for Tinkle. And he came in as a very young artist. I think I met Abhi when he was in his 12th standard or something, and he had come to meet Uncle Pai. And he had shown his artworks, and his mom was very concerned, what should he be doing? And we said, like, yeah, he's quite talented. And Abhi, I guess, is one of the most prolific artists today in the Indian scene. So yeah, quite a few. I'm sorry if I miss out any of the artists' name. Of course, I have a lot of artist friends. But if I really talk about, Indian artists who are independent artists today, and there are quite a lot of them. Somin Patel, again, like I said, I don't want to miss up any of my artist friends out here. But I really have a lot of respect for each one of their works, because they all come with a very distinct style, and the way they tell their stories, I guess, is amazing. And each one of them, all due credit to each one of them, because they all stand apart in their own journey as a comic book artist. Rosh is one a very good artist and a good friend of mine. Uh, so with each one of them, Kishore Mohan, like each one of these artists are amazing, brilliant storytellers. And when I look at this work, I really feel like there is so much of talent in India itself. We do speak about a lot of foreign artists, but if you really look at Indian artists, you will really find like they're super talented. And of course, when they tell a story, like when I look at Indian artists telling a story visually, it's lot different than you would find an American artist drawing comics or the European comic. The way they tell their story, I feel that there is a certain way of telling stories like the way we do. Like, and I don't know how to explain this, but as a comic book artist, I can feel that. When I look at a story which is drawn by an Indian artist, I would know that, there's a way of telling that story and that you would not find in an American artist, comic book artist. So yeah,
We have got our own flavor to our art styles. And keeping our industry veterans aside, what is that one pro tip you would give as a veteran yourself to new upcoming budding Indian comic book artists?
I guess this is something which I really feel that if you want to be a comic book artist, uh, you should love that medium. And if you really love that medium, then you have to know everything about that medium. So read as much as you can. And I would say read not only comics, but read whatever you feel would inspire you, whatever you feel would give you ideas. Because, I don't look at comic book artists as just drawing something, uh, given a script and they draw. Like, I don't believe that would make you a good comic book artist. To be a good comic book artist, I guess you also have to be a very good, like I mean, of course, you have to be a very good imaginative person as such. You have to put in your own thing also in the art. Storytelling is
Yeah,
not about just
yeah.
following a script. Storytelling is also about putting yourself into that story. So if you want to be a good comic book artist, love the medium and read as much as you can. Follow as much as comic book artists as you can, and look at each one's work in detail. Like, just don't read a comic book. You go into those visuals, understand uh, how this artist is trying to tell a story. Like I said earlier, each one
And
has got their own ways of telling a story. So, my advice to any person who would want to make a career in comics, uh, just love the medium.
I think I have said this before also. The beauty
Hmm.
of comic book is there is two creative people for one story, even if it's just one
Yeah,
idea ultimately. And each have their own signature. There is a writer's signature and then there is an artist's signature, both in it. So that
yes.
makes comics completely a unique standpoint from any other storytelling method.
I guess we can go on and on talking about comics. It's a never-ending subject.
yeah,
So yeah,
Yes.
but I really enjoyed speaking with you guys.
Absolutely. I was trying to search for the artist that you had mentioned in the tinkles that I have, but I think I'll have to search for the other tinkles as well. Because
Huh.
it's quite
Yeah.
evocative about to see old illustrators, old books where the every art style
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
different and so distinct.
Different.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, uh, what you're talking about just a few minutes ago about India having a
Hmm.
gamut of artists who are
Yeah.
extremely talented. You just have to open a Tinkle and there will be at least seven, eight artists who have distinct styles. So like
Definitely.
you
Yes.
mentioned about Ram and how he draws. His style is so unique. I love the way he's and for me, I
Yeah.
noticed him in Akbar and Birbal stories, and then of course he does
Oh
so
yeah.
many
But,
so many other
hmm.
ones.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
your style is unique. There's so many like amazing artists that we've got, and you just have to look at Tinkle
Hmm.
to realize that they've given chance to the so many great talents here.
I mean,
Definitely.
they took
Definitely.
for Amar Chitra titles, that those paintings, they're like I have this book of Lord Ram's rings. I don't remember the exact title. It's about Ram's ring that gets lost. But that cover page that has of Rama and Krishna, that
Hmm.
painting is, it is so beautiful that I
Yes.
was like, my, like
Yeah.
how it's that good.
No, in fact, all the covers of Amar Chitra Katha in the 90s, 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s and 90s were all hand painted. And it was brilliant. Like, the best of the covers which I remember, of course, Shakuntala is one of my favorites. Then there is, and all these covers by Pratap Mulek, or if you look by Vithankar, and of course, Ram Vairkar's covers. So all of these iconic covers which were created over the years were all hand painted. And I cannot imagine today artists doing a cover like which is not digital, because the challenge is when you're making a cover, of course, uh, and of course most of these covers were either poster colors and watercolors and a mixed thing, but and that is where that the uniqueness of each of these covers come in. If you look at all these iconic Amar Chitragatha covers, each one of them have had their own style. Like if you look at Vittankar's covers, if you look at Pratap Mulik's covers, if you look at Umrodkar's covers, if you look at Ram Bayarkar's covers, each one of them is distinctively different. Jeffrey Fowler, I think there is no one like Jeffrey Fowler. Of course, I forgot to mention that he again was quite inspiring for me when I used to read his stories. That's the Jatak Tales, the Panchatantra, and the Hitopadesh. That's Jeffrey Fowler. And also, if you look at Fowler's work, it's heavily inspired by Asterix. And Fowler was one artist who had that foreign influence. And of course, a very mysterious artist, I must say, because nobody actually knows where Jeffrey Fowler disappeared after he worked for Ramachitra Katha for that brief period of 5 to 6 years. And I had tried my best to find about Mr. Fowler, but unfortunately, I couldn't. But Jeffrey Fowler's work, you will find all the Panchatantras, the Jatak tales, uniquely different, very different from Vayakar and Halbe and Mulik, all of them. Jeffrey Fowler stood apart in all of that. If you look at his art, very different from the others, and of course, heavily inspired from European comics at that time. If you also look at, most of these artists at that time, when there was nothing for them to look at, uh, they were, of course, inspired by Asterix and Tintin. These were the two major. Today, of course, you have a lot of referencing, but that is where all of these artists stand so strong, because with that minimum information, with that very limited exposure to visuals, they could bring out some fantastic comics. Like, and if you look at all the micro stuff, if you look at all the history stuff, there's so much of these comics that they have created out of their imagination with limited information for them to
Yeah.
look at. So hats off to these guys, like how they have created this entire Amar series over the years. I guess it is something which we cannot even imagine today.
I mean, I remember reading Indrajal comics in the
Hmm.
those which were printed in the
Yeah.
70s. They had, I think, painted covers. Mr. Malik was one of
Yes.
them who
Yes.
used to paint Indrajal comic
Yeah.
covers for Phantom,
Yeah.
etc. And for old Tarzan books, you used to have this Mr. George Wilson, and his
Okay.
painting was almost like lifelike. Like you could
Yeah.
see that
Hmm.
the Tarzan that he's drawn looks like it's so real. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
the talent that was there, and what you were mentioning, how people use real drawings and sketches and
Yeah.
watercolor to
Yeah.
create that impact is kind of lesser right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. I guess it's also the world that we live in, where
Mm.
we want
Yeah.
things faster. And
Yeah.
but I would always love to sketch on paper, and I think that's where the real art is. In my mind, when you look at digital art, it is all pixels, right? It's not
Mm.
real. It's You cannot feel it, you cannot touch it. You
Yeah.
can take a printout of it, but if you actually draw on paper, you are holding that art. And and at the Comic Con, of course, there are a lot of people who approach me and say, can I get your original art? Which, of
Mm.
course, then I do a sketch and all of that. But
Yeah.
I guess drawing on paper has its own charm.
It
Absolutely,
definitely does
absolutely.
because I think whenever before when the social media and internet applications were dawning in the
Hmm.
post 2010s, okay, even until then, it's not that internet was not used or software was not used for drawing, but it was not as advanced yet. It was still growing with its
Yeah.
application. So people who used to draw, I remember there was this one artist when Bajiro Mastani came, someone had drawn Deepika
Hmm.
Padukone when she was singing that song, and it was
Hmm.
lifelike, quite literally
Hmm.
lifelike, and he had done it via hand. So
Oh,
when you
wow.
know that that is done via hand, that whole process, it
Yeah.
is magical. Vis-a-vis doing it on digital art, not that no effort is taken there, but there is already a few built-in factors, and it's convenient to
Hmm.
do it on digital
Hmm.
rather. You
Yeah.
there's a whole process. You think what colors do you use, what composition
Yeah.
do you use, in which order do you use these things. Sometimes you have to burn them, sometimes you wait a
Hmm.
day. It's that whole process that itself is a
Yeah.
different amount of sheer commitment and magic that an artist can bring on one blank paper.
Yes. So true.
So we spoke about these comics, and we want to know what is your favorite graphic novels or comics outside of Tinkle and Amritsar.
Oh, quite a lot. In fact, I have this entire section behind here, a lot of graphic novels, and I was just talking before we started about Pick Flip. Yeah, I have it here. This is one of my favorites. Uh,
Okay.
Pick Flip, can you see it?
Yeah, you can see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, of course, the art is amazing. It's all hand painted
Yeah.
and watercolor pastels stuff, and it's beautiful. The way the storytelling is in this.
Yeah.
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 So this is one of my
Lovely.
favorites, and of course, there are quite a few other Indian comics that inspires me. Like I said, a lot of independent artists today in India. Uh, I find their work very, very inspiring. In fact, a lot of them are my close friends, and when I look at their work, and that is something when I understand and look at how storytelling has changed so much, and the way an artist tells a story, and today, of course, these are called graphic novels. The way the stories are told, it's very complex stories which come out in this, and that is something which Sanat Banerjee is one, of course, and then of course there is also one other one which I have it in my library here. Uh, Amar Badi Tomar Badi Laksha. I don't know how many of you have come across that. By Sumit Kumar.
S-
Amar
Uh,
Badi Tomar Badi Naksal Badi. I guess that's the
okay.
yeah. So that's again a fantastic graphic novel. Uh, and it deals with very complex stories as such. So this particular title talks about the Naxalite movement in India. So
Hmm.
again, we are talking about issues which are for adults, and of course, putting it out in a graphic novel, comic book, sequential art style. Again, the way, uh, again, Harsho is one other comic book artist from Kolkata. I guess he has done an entire series on stories from Kolkata. Again, uh, when Harsho draws, I guess I find him also into that category of comic book artists who can tell you a story and the most complex stories. The Comic Con is like a wonderful platform for a lot of artists to come up. And of course, they have the indie comics also happening. So that's again very good moment where a lot of people come out, independent artists, and they showcase their works. Graphic novel I would want to mention is The Watchmen. If you look at the Watchmen series, again, that's a brilliant storytelling.
Yeah.
And again, if you go into the entire volumes of Watchmen series, it takes into the backstories of each of these characters. Again, very revolutionary in terms of storytelling. And again, I think there's so much within that one story that you would look at. when you go and explore each one of these characters, the back life and their history and where do they come from, their origins is something which is again brilliant. And if I would also speak of the graphic novels like say Palestine or Mouse for that matter, uh, I think
Oh yeah.
the world needs stories like this. We need to demystify so many complex issues that we face in the world today, and graphic novels are is that medium. We can actually tell you very grim, gritty stories and put it out in a graphic novel way, which can actually explain in some way at least, bring some sort of what do you call that, relief to a person, like to understand. Like for example, just reading about Palestine in the graphic novel, you would get some idea about what actually is the story behind this entire conflict. And there are so many other graphic novels like
That's
this,
true.
if you look at it,
Yeah.
which tell you brilliant stories. And I feel that, one should expose oneself to all of this. Like, it's not only the DCs and the Marvels, of course, there are so many of the other
Yeah.
graphic novels which tell you a story. And
True.
it's not always the superhero, I would say,
I
bam,
remember
oh yes,
reading Joe Russo's Palestine, and it was
it
like
is.
a moving experience for
Hmm.
me because I realized, the history
Correct.
of how it started and what the current
Yeah.
scenario of the people
Yeah.
who are living there is. So you don't look at it from a perspective of what the news channels are showing, what you are at, because that Joe Russo, he was there in
Yes.
Palestine, he was there at the Gaza
Yeah.
Strip, he spent time, months
Correct.
there, with the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And he understood what exactly was going on. So that perspective is something which you will never get from reading an article or from seeing a news clip. So graphic novels will do
Exactly.
that to you. They'll bring things to life. Like same thing for
Yeah.
Persepolis. Like it tells you about what Iran was
Correct.
before,
Yeah.
in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Graphic novels that way are a doorway to so much more, and it says it in a very uh, uh, interesting way.
Hmm. It simplifies, like I said, it
Yeah,
simplifies complex issues. Like Maus, for example, tells you the story of what happened in Nazi Germany at that time
yeah,
and Poland. And it is through that storytelling, which is all about mice and pigs. But within that, there is a very serious story which is being told. So I guess that is the power of comics today. It is not only a medium which can be consumed for fun. It's a medium to tell a very serious story.
Mhm.
And I guess today's
Yeah.
readers, today's kids are much smarter. Like, they really would understand complex subjects. And I guess when I also speak to a lot of kids today, they do talk about these comics. In fact, I did a session in a school only on graphic novels, and we went into detail about speaking about Mouse and Palestine. And that's when, learning comes in. And I feel like, this is a very good medium for children to learn about complex subjects. And they may not read
yeah.
an article on Gaza, but they would actually read a comic book and understand it much better. And that's where the importance of this medium comes in.
I think before we finally set up, I'll just ask one thing because
Yeah.
you told that in Amachakata they're working on Gita right now, and that's exciting.
Yes.
I'll definitely be one of the first buyers when it gets released. But because I also love the story of Kalki because
Hmm.
it's an avatar to come. Unlike the other scriptures, which is very detailed about events that has happened and recorded. Would there ever be a possibility of Amachakata doing like a full detailed story about that, a
Uh,
pictorial story?
I Yeah, I guess it's a good idea. I've never thought about this one. And we have spoken about Kalki also before in multiple editorial conversations as such. But I guess I should put it across to Reena, who is the editor. That's one story I guess we should be exploring. Definitely, we'll be looking at it. Yeah.
Because in novels you will see many
Yes.
writers trying to write stories on it, like
Yeah.
movies, novels, because again it's free to the creative
Yeah.
mind. You
Correct.
can have a lot of liberties to take and tell the story because only the framework is established.
Hmm.
Everything else is workable. It's flexible.
Definitely. So yeah, I guess I should put this across to the editorial team, and hopefully we will have enough to bring out this comic too. Yes, fingers crossed.
I think we all had a great time with you today here. We've had this amazing conversation like this because that we just love talking with artists and their creative process in the comic book industry. And hopefully we get together again like this for a second podcast where we just sit and
So
jam like this and then talk about more stuff in the comic book industry and our interests.
yeah, definitely, definitely. In fact, it was a pleasure speaking to all of you, and thank you for taking time out and talking about something which I really love, and of course you guys love a lot. Like I said, this is a exhaustive topic. This is something which is very close to my heart, and I could go on like hours speaking about.
Simon, it was a pleasure to have you. It was such
Yeah.
a innovative conversation that we had, and a lot of things that we did not
Hmm.
know kind of came out, especially like about how Tinkle was made, what the kind of process that goes into it. For
Yeah.
me as a child, I used to read that, but now when I spoke to you, for me, it's a personal experience. So I want to thank you for taking the time out and being with
My
us and
pleasure.
chatting about the passion that you have.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
So maybe at the
I
same,
think,
we'll
yeah.
definitely will do a second podcast someday.